This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Xero. As an accountant, when you join Xero, you'll gain access to a full range of practice management tools so you can manage your practice and your clients from almost anywhere. To learn more about building a better practice with Xero, visit cloudaccountingpodcast.com/join Xero. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.com/JOINXERO.
Welcome to the Cloud Accounting Podcast. I'm Blake Oliver.
And I'm David Leary.
And I'm Laurel Wilson.
Laurel, it's so great to hear your voice. We're Twitter friends, and I've never met you in person or heard your voice, and now here we are on the podcast.
Yes, I'm a real person. I'm not an avatar. I'm not a Russian bot. I'm a girl. I do exist.
Because I was thinking it is possible that you're like some 300-pound dude in his mom's basement.
You haven't seen me yet, though, so that's still a possibility.
I tried to introduce you to it Crippers Connect last year, but you know how that stuff goes. Actually, it was a failure of me. I always thought a lot more people knew who Blake was, and we'd be in a situation, we'd be standing there talking to people, and I would never introduce Blake. I thought they just knew him. So it was like totally rude behavior. I probably do it to my wife. It's embarrassing. So, Laura Lynn, it's awesome to have you here.
Thank you.
What's going on in your world outside of cloud accounting? Anything exciting happening?
Outside of cloud accounting, just gearing up for summer with the kids, getting ready to hit up XeroCon here in a couple of weeks. And yeah, nothing much outside of that.
I guess we should say you are a CPA, right?
I sure am.
And you're working in public accounting? Like what?
So I have a business partner and we own a practice together. And so we kind of do that fixed fee model where we do accounting and tax for small businesses.
All right. Any particular type of small business you like working with?
Kind of by accident, we've niched in more the real estate realm, but we also have some other random clients who do some cool stuff. Like one of my clients literally designs icons. So on like Snapchat and stuff or on Instagram, when you're all those icons he designed.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
What that's super niche.
Yes.
But now we know where to go when we need cloud accounting icons.
Yeah, yes. I'm thinking.
We have an inside track. We did get a review. Should we jump in and read that?
Yeah, let's read that.
It's 5 stars. It's from El Barto 19. Solid and thought-provoking. I've been listening to this podcast from about episode 45-ish. The content being reviewed is always on point. David and Blake do a great job in sharing all of what's what within the industry. What makes these episodes gold is the perspectives being shared by both, which use their past experiences and current passions to deliver solid takes. Highly recommend this weekly listen.
Awesome. Thank you, El Barto.
And I don't know who that is in real life, so if you're on Twitter, El Barto, raise your hand and let us know.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And if you want to give us a review on iTunes, super helpful, helps expand our reach and find more accountants to listen to the show. You can go on iTunes or Apple Podcasts because they're getting rid of iTunes. Did you hear about that, David? Yes, I actually have some Apple news in one of my stories. Oh, awesome. We could get into. We'll talk about that. But what should we start with, Laurel? What is hot in your mind?
Okay, for me personally, one of the things that's hot is people switching to using cloud accounting for tax prep. And so the first story here that springs to mind is the Canopy tax prep with practice management. So it's just Canopy has released an online tax prep that kind of integrates with their other practice management type stuff. And the reason that's interesting to me is, so I use Intuit Pro Connect with our practice, and that has a really nice push with QBOA. And so we have all of our clients on QBO. We use their trial balance features, and then we can push all their business information really easily into Pro Connect. And the problem I'm seeing right now is there's not any other integration between an accounting platform like that and an online platform that does that well.
Got it.
Because I know you can download and upload. And so I was kind of poking around their website and looking, I'm like, well, what kind of integrations do they offer? And still, I don't know anything that exists like that out there, and then that kind of ties into more like kind of this, all the kerfuffle about QuickBooks Live and some of the QBO people being like, well, I'm going to switch to Xero. And in my head, I'm like, that QBOA Intuit Pro Connect integration is just way too good for me to switch.
Interesting. So, how much time does it save you to have that integration? It's taking the trial balance and pushing it, right?
And to give you perspective of what we had to do before, we used to have to download out the trial balance, upload it into Engagement, which was a CCH program, do all the adjusting journal entries there, and then hand type into our system all the tax return information, and then manually post the journal entries into QBO.
Got it.
So that was on an easy, straightforward business return, probably about 6 hours.
Wow.
Whereas now with the QBOA Pro Connect push, it's about an hour. So
yeah, that's a lot of time. Wait, so
yeah.
What is this? So Canopy is practice management for tax firms or firms that focus on tax primarily, right? So now they've released this tax prep product. How does that change the game for you?
You know what? Until they're able to do some type of connect or push, like between, QBOA or even Xero, I'm like, this is not a product I would even consider using.
Well, I think it's just personal taxes as well, right? You cannot do business tax returns with this.
Well, why though would you release a professional tax prep software and then leave out business returns?
No, I don't think that's right.
As we kind of talk about this, like, don't forget, we've talked about Canopy before in the past. They had that huge layoff. They were kind of really growing like crazy. And like, in a way, this software is late, right? I think they thought they'd have this out in time for the tax season.
Oh, and here I am actually looking further down to the article. The software is currently available to file individual tax returns in 24 states. And then for the 2019, they're expanding some of the business ones into 8 states. So this isn't even like a nationwide.
All right. So it's a slow rollout. It's like a beta type product. It reminds me of how Gusto rolled out, right? Gusto wasn't originally in 50 states. It started in California, payroll, and then they gradually went into like 12 of the big states. And then eventually, finally, after many years, got everywhere.
Yeah. Some of their features, though, like are pretty cool. And so I would like to see ProConnect take their kind of platform. And if they could make it more like this with kind of the tax resolution and some of those other items, that would be very interesting and very useful.
Interesting.
Or even on the other side, the ProConnect platform, right? Or these software like Canopy to connect through APIs to QuickBooks, right? Or to ProSeries, right? So that way you can move that data from, if you can still use QBOA, but you can send your data to Canopy if you're a Canopy user, right?
Yeah, or even Xero. I mean, I think I've heard from a little birdie that Xero had no plans or has no plans to go into the tax prep service in the US. But like if they could form partnerships with a company and create that integration, that would be a game changer, I think.
Yeah.
Because like I said, right now, I won't even consider Xero until they're able to do something like that.
Because Xero has that in Australia. And then I think Xero acquired a company similar to Canopy in the UK to kind of have that end-to-end thing, which I agree. I think it's a very huge competitive advantage because nobody wants to have systems that don't talk to each other.
Exactly.
So if you can have a full end-to-end solution, it's a huge benefit, and it's a competitive advantage for Intuit for sure in the US.
Definitely.
Well, speaking of Intuit ProConnect, David, you have a poll here that was on the ProConnect website.
So I saw a poll that's on the ProConnect website. It just went out today. And I think there's just a lot of people like me that are like, I wonder what the results are. So they just click 0 to 10%. And so right now, nobody's done the poll. So I think if we could share it and people do the poll, as I find, like the poll, I'll just read the title of the poll. The poll is, what percentage of your firm's revenue comes from advisory services? And I feel like we're in the summer of advisory. It's all the accounting conferences are going to be talking about. So I thought this was like, oh, this is an awesome question. This would be a great story. I clicked on it. There's no results yet. So we'll get that in the show notes and we'll see. I just
took the poll and I think maybe 3 of us have taken it so far because it's 66.
And Blake and David are 2 of them.
Yeah. So it's 66.67% are 0 to 10%, and then 33.33% are 11 to 20%, and nobody is over 20%. So we'll share it in the show notes, and hopefully our listeners will go and vote in this poll, and we'll actually be able to see how much revenue are firms earning from advisory services now, because it's probably not that much, right?
Well, hopefully it's more than 0 to 10%, which is winning the poll by far right now.
Well, I think part of the problem with advisory services is that actually a lot of firms and a lot of partners are doing it. And Laurel, and I'd love to hear what you think. They're just not charging for it, right? They're charging for the tax return, and then they're giving advice to their clients, but like that's not part of what their clients are paying for now. And it's
Yeah. Well, so with us, we do kind of the standard accounting and tax prep on a fixed fee, but that fixed fee is priced at a premium.
Mm-hmm.
And so, built into that is they know they can reach out to us anytime and ask us stuff. And so it's like we are charging for it, but it's not something that's line itemed out in our engagement with them.
And does that include like tax planning in there, or is that separate?
Yeah, no, that's in there.
Rolled in. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're basically already. Do you call it advisory? Do you think of it that way?
We just call it consulting, limited consulting. And then they just know that anytime they can ping us and we'll help them out with whatever they have a question on. And it's not necessarily, only tax or only books. It can be for a wide variety of things. They'll be like, oh, I'm thinking of doing this new venture. Give me your thoughts on that. So it's pretty loose and wide.
Got it.
There's a tweet related to advisory this week too, right? I think.
Yes. This was from at the Big Four Tweets, who's a hilarious account and you should always follow, but kind of following the same vein. He tweeted, I still have no idea what advisory does.
And it got 228 likes and 56 retweets, which is a lot for an accounting tweet, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've been probably thinking far too deeply on this tweet, but it's hard to define because for everyone, it's going to mean something different. Like I was thinking in our firm, a lot of the type of stuff people ask us for advice on, so we do the advisory or consulting, whichever you want to call it, is a lot of it's tax related, even though the majority of our time is spent doing their accounting work. But for someone who say is just a bookkeeper, they're not going to be doing tax advisory type stuff. So that's going to look completely different for them. So I think that's why it's hard to kind of define it.
Yeah, it's different. And I just had an advisory moment this week. I have one client that I still work with on the side, and she had an employee quit. And so she called me and said, what do I do? This employee quit. How, should I pay her for these days when she wasn't in the office because she hadn't yet officially quit and was taking, quote unquote, personal time? And of course, I'm here now, I'm a CPA and I'm like, how do I CYA, right? I'm not an HR professional. And so I'm like, well, I can't really tell you that. You should probably call your lawyer. And then she just stops me. She's like, dude, just tell me what you would do if you were in my situation. I'm like, well, I guess I can say theoretically, like if this were me in a hypothetical situation, what would I do? And I'm doing advisory right there, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm saying like, well, if it was me, I would rather just pay her through the end of the period and not have to deal with any potential legal problems, right? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I'm, going to get in trouble, but like that was an advisory moment for me. And that's what, I charge a fixed fee, and that's what she expects to get that kind of advice.
Mm-hmm. The interesting thing about that Twitter chain was it was that's kind of a sarcasm Twitter account. Is that correct? The Big Four account? Okay. Mm-hmm. And people were posting sarcastic remarks back. Even myself, I posted like, hey, maybe there's some accounting conferences this summer that'll teach you how to do it. And it quickly subchained into people really criticizing the conferences and their 1 hour, we'll teach you what to do in an hour type sessions, to people are grassrooting a real conference of some type to really get trained in advising. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I almost never see like in-depth sessions on how to do advisory. It's always like this very high level thing. And you can't take that home and actually do something with it.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the nature of a lot of conferences anywhere. It's kind of this big macro level bird's eye view of stuff. But I think to actually get value of it, you actually have to, create some sessions where you're actually workshopping. Because that's one thing I found, I haven't been to many conferences, but the couple I have been to, everyone is really just curious to know what everyone else is doing. They're like, well, how do you do it? What do you charge? What tech stack do you use? And so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe in the future going forward, maybe some conferences kind of pivot more toward that model, because I think that's what people really want.
Yeah, I like that. Hey, so I've got some follow-up from some stories in past weeks. Here's one on Free File. So we haven't heard about Free File in a while. The whole Intuit
it took a week off last week.
It took a week off, right? ProPublica didn't come out with any new stories implicating Intuit in some dark marketing tactics or whatnot. But The Hill mentioned that House lawmakers this week have dropped the Free File provision from the IRS bill that is working its way through Congress. It almost made it all the way through. It got through the House, it was in the Senate, and then this whole Free File thing happened. And now they've dropped it. So they're going to pass this IRS bill, but without the Free File provision that would have enshrined the program forever in law. So probably, I think that the odds are likely that this program will either just continue to be renewed year to year, or could eventually be eliminated. That's the news
from The Hill.
From The Hill. And another IRS story here is, you'll like this. The IRS decided, this is a story in the Journal of Accountancy, that on June 28th, it's going to stop faxing tax transcripts. Yeah.
Did you say start or stop?
They adopted the modern technology of the fax, apparently, many years ago, and have been using it until now. And to protect against identity theft, they're going to stop faxing transcripts to taxpayers and professionals. And you're going to have to now go on the IRS website or use their app or call a phone number or submit a paper form in order to get transcripts sent to you. They will only send them to you electronically or via mail. And if you're a third party, you can't get them mailed directly to you now. They have to go to the address of record. So a small step toward more security when it comes to our personal information.
I wonder how utilized that system was.
The faxing?
Like, maybe it hasn't been used in 4 years, and they're like, we should just get rid of that now.
All I know is that, like, when I was at Armanino, we burned up the fax lines.
And that was that was within the 3 years. Yeah. Wow. I have not dealt with a fax in a long time. Thank goodness. Knock on wood. Let's see. I kind of have an update, a related update to something from last week.
All right.
So remember last week when I was talking about how my QuickBooks Online price went up?
Yes.
Okay. So I did find an article here. I'm just going to read from the article, and then I'm going to kind of let you guys take a guess of when this article was written.
Okay.
Intuit, like every other cloud-based software maker, earns more money when you subscribe to its online products. It gives the company a continuous, almost guaranteed revenue stream, which not only boosts the recurring cash flow, but also its market valuation, which can now be more accurately determined using similar multiplier formula used to value cable companies, utilities, accounting firms, and any other business with recurring revenue stream. And it gives software companies the ability to control their future revenues too. What stops Intuit from raising the monthly price of QuickBooks Online Essentials to XXX per month? Sure, you can yell, but how far will it get you? You're stuck. You're not going to go through the cost and disruption to move your accounting system, are you? Just to save a measly $10 a month, right? Now multiply that $10 per month by Intuit's millions of customers. Ka-ching! And the second to last paragraph in this article says, look for the continued growth of small business cloud applications. Look for more PR from the software industry telling us all the benefits of the cloud. But just remember that you're not choosing a cloud application. The choice is being made for you. So would you two care to guess when that article was written?
Oh gosh, since you primed it like that, I'm going to say it's something crazy, like 2010 or something.
Yeah, I mean, it mentions that Intuit has online products, so it's got to be like within the last 15 years. And
so I left out the price. So it said if it increases the price to $36.95 for QuickBooks Online Essentials.
What price?
$36.95.
So I'm going to go like do prices right. And I'm going to go 1 year earlier than Laurel. So she said 2010. I'm going to go 2009.
2009. Okay. So this is an article from Gene Marks in 2015.
Oh, okay.
And so
that's not very shocking.
It's not shocking, but it's this pretty much that was in 2015. It's not an article from last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, where all the price increases
so
are happening.
Your point is that
right?
the price increases have just been happening gradually over the last 4 years.
Well, the point is it was inevitable, right? This is going to happen, and it probably will keep happening,
right?
But I think
until people stop subscribing, like the prices are just going to keep increasing. Eventually, Intuit's going to figure out, like, okay, here's the maximum you could possibly charge for QuickBooks, which is exactly.
Yeah, and I think what Intuit needs to remember too is, like, obviously a lot of people have been mad about QuickBooks Live is people make decisions based on emotion and then they justify it with logic. So yes, people will have a breaking point, and it will be, I don't care how much work it is to migrate all my clients off this program. You've done me wrong. You've pissed me off. And I could see a lot of bookkeepers out there, hitting that point at some point and being like, I don't care how much work it is. I'm done with you.
Yeah. Well, we're already starting to see that, bubble up in Facebook forums and on Twitter. But it's a small group of people online complaining, right? And so it must not be enough to stop it.
Yeah, but I think it's happening more than I've ever seen it. And the proof of that is it was happening 4 years ago. So somewhere it's hitting a psychological barrier of too high.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I mentioned the IRS no longer faxing and modernizing in that respect. The CPA exam is also modernizing. I unfortunately did not have the benefit of taking the exam when it was given all in one day on paper. Every time I talk to people over a certain age, like that's what they tell me. And I'm like, okay, I got to hear this story again. Right. But it was inconvenient in that you had to, currently you have to take the exam during a testing window. You have to wait seemingly forever to get your results. And then you can't retake a section until you get your test results. And then you have to wait until the next window.
Yeah. But then you're also on the ticking time clock.
Which is what? You got to do it all within 2 years or something? Or
it might even be 18 months. It might be less than 2 years. Yeah.
So now this is an article in Going Concern talking about how beginning in June 2020, NASBA is planning to roll out continuous testing, which means that there will no longer be test window limitations and you can retake a test section as soon as your grade for any previous attempt has been released. So basically, it's going to get rid of that window, which why do they need that these days, right? Theoretically, you don't. So
well, I don't even understand. I think all 2 essays are gone out of the CPA exam, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that, but I never understood why in the sections where there were no essays, why you couldn't get your results immediately.
Yeah, I took the first part of the EA exam before I switched over to the CPA exam. And that exam's amazing because you take it and you press submit and you get your result. Right there, you're sitting there in the test center and you can either celebrate or cry.
Yeah. You don't have to wait 6 weeks losing your hair.
So if they can do that for the EA exam, why can't, like you said, why can't they do that for the CPA exam if it's all just multiple choice, or if it's, even if it's simulations, they can grade that spreadsheet right automatically, theoretically. So it's great. We're moving forward, guys. We're making progress as a profession.
Finally.
So David, that means you can sit for the CPA exam now.
Yeah, I have some time on my hands. This week, I'll put that to my to-do list here.
You have to suffer with the rest of us. One of us.
Can I real-time tweet it as I'm taking the test?
I don't know. You might get kicked out of the Prometric Exam Center.
We could try it. What else do you have, Laurel?
Okay, this is from France. I feel like these are popping up every week. We have another startup raising all this money to do some type of AI accounting automation program. So this one, if we were in America, I'd call it George's, but I think since this is French, it might be Georget. But it's, another company raised $11.2 million. And I pulled this quote from it. It's not perfect. So you will still have to manually categorize some transactions, but it's still much faster than entering each transaction in an accounting application. Once everything is tagged properly, Georget generates paperwork and sends it to tax authorities. That right there almost gave me a heart attack.
That got 11.2 million in VC money. That is amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. Well,
I was like, I've seen people do their books and I'm like, and it's just going to take all that and call it good and send it off to the tax authorities.
Laurel, and you can just send all your clients to Georget and just, sit at home and just hang out. Yeah. They don't need this.
Yeah. And then what made me wonder is back with the whole BotKeeper thing, how much is AI and how much is humans?
Right. Good question. So, well, the quote up top is great. This is the problem with mainstream press, right? This article in TechCrunch starts out with the second sentence is, quote, with Georget, you can get rid of your accountant altogether and switch to a software as a service product. Let's get rid of it gets rid of the accountants altogether.
And maybe something got lost in translation here, but even so, what stood out for me is a lot of these companies are coming up and they're doing what I would argue is bank feed accounting, right? People that have very, very simple businesses, they just have a debit card and they get bank statements, bank feeds, and then they're auto-categorizing it, which is really what QuickBooks and Xero already do.
Well, more like QuickBooks self-employed, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these are kind of QuickBooks self-employed plays. Yeah, I would agree.
There's millions and millions of those businesses, right? So this is not, Laurel, and I mean, I'd imagine that you probably don't have a ton of that kind of client, right? That's just cash basis business like Schedule C.
No. Yeah, no. We don't, probably almost none of them. It's all primarily S Corps and partnerships. But I mean, some of these, it's like doctors, architects, lawyers. I'm like,
what's funny about that sentence, they say they focus on one type of company in particular, people working on their own as freelancers, comma coaches, comma doctors, comma architects, comma lawyers. Like lawyers can't do bank feed accounting. Like
no,
they have to track the trust accounts. Like it's I don't know if this just got lost in translation when the news came to America.
No, this is from their pitch deck, right? They're trying to make their total addressable market as large as possible for the VCs. So that's how you get $11 million. Let's make an accounting firm sound super sexy and get a bunch of money.
I could do that. I'll do that. Someone give me $11 million.
So Laurel, I'm going to reach out to you after. We're going to make our pitch deck and we're going to go raise $10 million for our startup that will do accounting. And then we will just flee the country.
Yeah, we'll throw some automation like lingo in there, automation, machine learning.
Yeah.
So Apple had big news this week, right? There was they released like a $20 billion computer system and all this other stuff they announced, like the new iPad, EarPods,
the cheese grater.
And all this stuff. The cheese grater, I think, is what the computer looks like.
The new Mac Pro, is that what they call it? Like looks like a giant cheese grater.
And don't they have a monitor with $1,000 stand? If you buy it without the stand, if you need the stand, it's $1,000 to buy a monitor stand.
That is a great example of value pricing right there, because you really need that stand, right?
Well, I guess it supports the typical. You could bring your own stand, so it's not. Like
but then it won't match. It won't match the cheese grater.
If you want exactly.
And it's really important when you buy. Like I have this little like adapter for my Macs that I can plug in my USB microphone that I'm using right now, because of course the new Macs only come with USB-C, not normal USB, just so they could make it like a few millimeters thinner.
Mm-hmm.
And originally I ordered the wrong color and that was really bugging me. So now I have the one that matches my Mac exactly. And I think that same principle, right, is what they're using for this stand that costs $1,000 is, you just it's got to look right if you're spending that much money.
So
Apple's going to have these. Georget is going to have all these in their office.
Every employee gets one. No kidding. Part of the onboarding. So in that slew of all this Apple news that came out there was something that actually affects all of us as cloud accountants.
What is it?
Especially the app developers. So Apple is coming out with something called Sign In with Apple. So just like they're sign in with Facebook, they're sign in with Google, they're sign in with Intuit. I think, doesn't Xero have a single sign-on as well?
Something. Yeah, they've got some sort of single sign-on now. Yeah.
Okay, right. So Apple changed their developer guidelines. So if you want to have an app in the Apple Store, if you use any other third-party sign-in, so this is going to be every single app that's on apps.com for QuickBooks that uses sign in with Intuit will now have to add sign in with Apple to their app.
Oh.
Or they can't be in the Apple Store.
Well, so they're going to instantly become the biggest single sign-on provider because of that.
Yes. So tomorrow, this is interesting, right? Because tomorrow, not tomorrow, but in tomorrow's world, everybody's going to be able to use sign in with Apple for all these cloud apps we use.
I'm really surprised they haven't done this sooner, because this is going to solve so many problems for apps, like having to have a password manager and log into like hundreds of apps. And if Apple just saves or just links these apps to my Apple ID, I no longer have to sign into them. I no longer even have to create a password for them. That's going to be great there's obviously downsides to that, but it's going to be great, I think, for the average consumer.
And this was squished at the very, very, very bottom of some developer release notes. Like teeny. So it's huge news. It's a huge announcement that just got brushed under the rug. And I think this is, Apple's playing up this big privacy game.
Yeah.
This is a direct right at Facebook and right at Google. Like they're going right after those two. I mean, people in our space use sign in with Intuit, but it's not across the whole world. Like there's not billions of people using it. And this is Apple going straight at Facebook and straight at Google.
That's why they buried it.
But
you found it. You caught it. How did you find this?
I don't know. I think I saw a tweet. It's like it caught my eye and I was like, that's interesting. Like that's going to impact us. I didn't go. I'm not an Apple fanboy. I wasn't reading Apple press releases and all this stuff.
You don't even have a Mac.
Somehow it caught my eye. Yeah, I don't have a Mac. What's that?
What else? I got Speaking of security, remember I was talking about the NSA last week and how a hacking tool that they...
Can you stop talking about them? Okay. We're going to get in trouble.
Well, no, so this is a positive story. The NSA issued an advisory this week about a different flaw called Blue Keep. I can't even remember what the one last week was called, but this is different. So it's yet another Microsoft Windows flaw. It is super, super critical and has just been... Microsoft just released a patch for it in May, and something like 1 million computers still are not protected. They have not been updated. This only affects computers that are not running Windows 8 or Windows 10. So it's earlier versions. If you're on like Windows 7 and before, you have to update your computers ASAP because apparently this vulnerability would allow malware to spread all over the internet. Like this could be as bad as WannaCry was in 2017. So if your firm or is running earlier versions of Windows, you got to update. And it's very unusual for the NSA to issue an advisory like this. They almost never do it. I think it's only the third time that they've issued an advisory. And so there's a question as to, is this connected in some way to like another leak, maybe that hasn't been disclosed yet? Why would they be doing this instead of the Department of Homeland Security? Whatever the reason, update your computers.
And it's not a paid press thing for Microsoft or anything like that where...
Not at all. Well, I don't think Microsoft would really want to be paying for this kind of publicity.
Well, yeah, but they want people to upgrade.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. That's one of the reasons why it's important to upgrade, right? And it is because of the security vulnerabilities in old software that isn't supported.
My 3-year-old downstairs is losing his mind. He thinks I left him. I'll be right back, okay?
That's okay. I have the exact same problem when I'm recording at home where like I'll lock the door to my guest room /office and my son will just like come and start pounding on the door.
Laurel, if you play an episode of the Cloud Accounting podcast, he'll just be bored to death and he'll just go like,
Right. No worries. Well, we can continue and I'll just edit out any noise if we need to.
Yeah. That works.
Okay, cool. So where were we? What did we leave off with? I just forgot. We were talking about the NSA.
I have a quick little small one.
Okay.
Or a fast story. It's kind of big news, though, because I think the stats are interesting in it. ATAX franchise and loyalty brands are joining forces to expand nationwide and serve the 2.13 trillion U.S. Latino market. This article is really good because it has a lot of stats that maybe people aren't aware of. For example, did you know that in the last decade, U.S. Latinos launched 86% of all new businesses in the United States?
Living in Southern California, that does not surprise me, but I had no idea it was so high.
Yeah. Same thing in Arizona. I'm not surprised, but
that's insane.
That's pushing 90%. 86% is really, 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 really high. And they are addressing it. They're basically their point of view is there's no clear service provider focused on servicing the U.S. Latino community when it comes to tax services and individuals and business services like payroll and bookkeeping on a nationwide basis. So they're really taking what I think smaller firms are doing locally, right? I'm sure in Southern California, there's firms focusing on Latino community, right? But there's nobody trying to do it nationwide, and they're going to.
So would it be fair to say these guys are like the Latino focused H&R Block? Is that what is it retail tax? Is that what this is?
It's going to be tax. It's going to be some advising. It's going to be payroll and bookkeeping. So it's going to be full service for individuals and businesses. And they want to push for 400 locations by the end of 2021.
So this is really interesting because we've been talking a lot with TurboTax Online and with QuickBooks Online about the decline of retail tax and the decline of the freelance bookkeeper or independent bookkeeper due to these platforms. But maybe this is the niche kind of approach that will succeed in that world, right? I mean, because unless, of course, Intuit goes and creates TurboTax Espanol,
which they have before. They may have done it twice. And it just it never really got traction in the market.
Interesting. Well, so that's really cool. So I think it just proves your point, David, that the riches are in the niches.
As always, yes.
Can I talk about an accounting poll I ran on Twitter?
You ran your own poll.
All right.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I did. Okay. And it got 79 votes, so a pretty sizable section of all accountants.
I mean, I think we could almost call that scientific.
I think so too. I think our sample size was large enough, but it just popped into my head. I said, do you let clients choose their accounting software? And so 11% said yes, they let them choose. 56% said hell nah. And then 33% said yes if they pay me lots. So that's actually 44% are still letting the client dictate what the accounting software was. And I just thought that was interesting. It seemed high to me. Just because I know internally. Go ahead.
What's at your firm then? What do you guys do?
We control it. And I'm very clear. And it's like, this is my sandbox. If you want to work with me, you're coming into my sandbox. And it's systems that I like that make me efficient.
Well, you are very disciplined, and that sweet cash can make it really hard to turn down a client if they want to stay on a particular application. So,
well, and we've spent a lot of time over the past year building out our workflows and making them very specific, very detailed. And then to have to do that over multiple accounting softwares, it'd be a pain in the butt. Doing it for one was hard enough.
Yeah, I agree completely. That's the big benefit of standardizing on a particular app. Like you said earlier in the show, you have your workflow where it goes from the GL into tax, and it saves you like 5 hours per return. Yeah. Which is insane. And so it totally makes sense. You would want to have every client on that workflow. Otherwise it just doesn't scale up.
Yep, exactly.
And what I've never understood like the psychology of this is I really truly feel like if I go see a doctor, I don't dictate at all what tools they're going to do. Like I don't even dictate what they do to me a little bit, right? And you kind of do, right? You choose your doctor, but then they decide they're going to do something and they're just going to do it, right? And you don't have any say. And a lot of professions are like that, right? But accountants, for some reason, let themselves get bullied, right? The client's like, I'm going to use this. I don't care if it's a DOS program, because we see this, right? Some law firm will still be using some DOS program to print out their invoices. And then the accountant has to like scan these invoices, like using auto entry to get them to QuickBooks Online because they can't get the law firm to stop using this old DOS software. And so like, I don't understand like why accountants is this a human nature thing? Like, should the CPA exam have like
we're just too nice.
Section?
We need to be assholes. We need
to. I think so.
Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of doctors are like that, at least surgeons that I've met.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We all need to, all of us need to have more of a doctor complex. That would be really good for the industry.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I've had clients who actually, for like moral and ethical reasons, or potential clients who did not want to use Intuit because kind of some of the stuff we've been talking about, has been going back years with them, with some like the shady tax practices and lobbying for certain things. And, I just had to tell them, I'm like, sorry, like I use Intuit, like, good luck, go find another accountant. Mm-hmm. Like, I respect that. I respect that you're standing on your ground and your morals, but, at the end of the day, I'm trying to feed my family as well.
Well, it totally makes sense to me. So Lauren Lynn, thank you so much for joining us. I think that's all the time we've got this week. If people want to connect with you online, learn more about you and what you're up to, where can they do that?
The best place to find me is going to be on Twitter. My handle is at Laurel Wilson, and I'm in there goofing off, having fun. So if you get offended easily, maybe don't come check me out. But if you love fun, absolutely come follow me.
You have some of your own hashtags as well, right?
I do. Probably the biggest one too. Well, now that Game of Thrones is over, but I did have hashtag accountants who goat, which is not as applicable anymore. And then the other one is hashtags accountants who health. I'm pretty big into health and fitness, but at the same time, I'll go on there and use that hashtag in a tongue-in-cheek way as well. So, all
right. Well, I will be the accountant who doesn't health.
Accountants who don't
health. And we'll see who gets the bigger following.
You will.
But I have, I was doing really well for a while, and then I just fell off the wagon, and I haven't worked out in weeks. So I'm going to have to get back into it. Maybe you can inspire me.
Tomorrow's a new day.
Well, Blake, I'll bring sardines for you.
Yes.
At the conferences this summer.
That's the problem for me is conference season is that's where I screw up because I'm flying and I use the plane as the excuse just to eat all the junk food they hand me. And I have my Southwest drink tickets. I'm like, I got to use these before they expire. Right. And then I get to the hotel and I'm like, I got to go find the treadmill. It doesn't happen. My clock is all screwed up. Like that's the big challenge for me.
So what I'm hearing is at XeroCon, you need an exercise instructor. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, can you give me a wake up call and then
let's hit the weight room.
Do the boot camp thing where like you just like throw me out of bed and you're like, keep going.
Yeah, you do burpees till you vomit and do sprints. Yeah, we'll do this.
All right, sounds good. Well, now I'm really looking forward to XeroCon.
You'll be hiding from me, won't you?
And you will be there. We'll see you at XeroCon. And are you going to any other conferences this year, Laurelyn?
Probably the only other one I'll be at will be QB Connect.
All right.
In November. Yeah.
That's great. I'll see you there as well. Awesome.
Cool.
And David, if people want to connect with you online, where should they go?
You can find me on Twitter as well. The easiest way is at David Leary.
And I am at Blake T. Oliver. And don't forget that you can follow us on Facebook. You can connect with us on LinkedIn and almost every social media platform imaginable. No, that's not true. We're not on Snapchat. We're not on Instagram. Because who would want to look at us like recording the Cloud Accounting podcast? I still haven't figured that out yet, so we haven't cracked that.
I have a plan for Instagram.
Oh, you do?
Because I record in the closet. I'll just put on like a different outfit and
it'll just be a series of pictures of you in your closet
with different clothes. There's at least in this closet have 250 Instagram photos.
It'll be David's wardrobe. That's great. All right. Well, thanks again, Laurelyn, and we'll see you soon. David, talk to you later.
Bye.
All right, that was fun.
Bye.
Bye.